So today is going to be closing day. I am headed to go pick up the closing gift for my client and go to closing. So this is actually a client that went through the new build process with Turnberry in one of their new communities. So I'm going to pick up the gift, go to closing, and then we're going to talk about what the new build process was like with Turnberry. So stay tuned. So just left the good tree, got the closing gift. Don't want to drop it and break it, but we are on our way to closing now. Okay, so we just wrapped up closing. So I wanted to take the opportunity to just talk a little bit more about what this build process looked like. I absolutely love helping clients go through the new build process, and each new build process can be a little bit different. It's really hard to talk about new builds with these big generalities because the way different builders operate, the way they go through the process, when you get involved in the process, it all dictates like what's available to you and how the process can go. So with this closing in particular, so this is a client that did reach out from YouTube because I had done a video about Turnberry. So Turnberry is going to be one of our local luxury builders. They primarily are going to be building in Williamson County. They've been here 30 plus years. They have a great reputation. So with Turnberry, so when this client reached out, they were interested in a particular community called Pasadena. Pasadena is almost completely sold out, but one of the appeals of Pasadena is the fact that these homes, they're going to sit on larger lots. So all the lots are going to be around half an acre. Most are backing to a private tree line that actually has a 50-foot buffer behind, like at the back of the lot. So even if like other developments came in, there's always going to be that 50-foot dense tree buffer. So that was one of the appeals. So the way that this process worked was we first identified a lot that they wanted to build on. And so of course for them, they were looking for one that was primarily flat because out in Pasadena, there are several lots that can lend themselves to having basements because basements are not really plentiful here just because we've got so much rock in our ground that it's normally really expensive. However, if a lot tends to have a slope to it, it can lend itself to being a basement. It's a lot less expensive to have, and a lot of times it can be a walkout basement. But this client in particular was not interested in the basement, so we first identified the lot. From there, we went under contract with Turnberry. So when you go under contract with Turnberry, so you first identify the lot, and then there is a deposit that goes down with Turnberry at that time. From the time you go under contract, then they're going to send you a couple of dates for your selection. So Turnberry considers themselves a fully custom builder. So yes, they have floor plans for you to choose from, but you are allowed to make customizations within that floor plan. Also, each floor plan is going to have different elevations. So what that means is that the front of the house, you could technically have the same floor plan on two lots next to one another, but Turnberry will not allow you to have the exact same elevation as long as the elevation is different because they don't want every house in the neighborhood to have the exact same elevation and therefore make it look really cookie cutter. So we were able to identify the lot. We were able to identify the elevation plan that they wanted for that floor plan, and it was not an issue with the other contracts that were around it. Then from there, we had selections. So they did go under contract, I believe it was late August of 2023. And then we were having selections in October, towards the end of October. Now, with Turnberry, selections are generally a 3-day, all-day process. So you are making every decision as you can imagine. So you're making decisions in terms of not just like flooring, countertops, cabinets, but you are picking the tile, how you want the tile to be laid out, the pattern in which, what's the grout color, what's the knob that you want to go with the cabinet, down to what, there's so many decisions that go into those 3 days. And they do have a design center that's located here in Brentwood. It's in the same office where you end up closing with Turnberry. And so you go through the process, and the team that goes through the design selections, they are really skilled in being able to help you navigate. Because if you are somebody that you love the idea of being able to customize a home, but you've maybe never done it before, the idea of trying to pick exactly how things should look, exactly the way that, the floor should be laid versus the tile in the shower should be laid, all of that can be really overwhelming and lead you to decision fatigue. But the team here is really good about being able to give you their opinion. Now, when clients go through this customization process, sometimes they want us there, sometimes they're like, hey, we are good, we know exactly what we want. With this client in particular, they did, because the husband and wife, they were doing it remote. So the husband would come in town, but the wife would stay home in their home state and would FaceTime in. And so they just really wanted to lean on us to help guide them. This was the first time that they were going through the design process, and it can be a lot. One of the biggest tips that I like to give clients when they're getting ready to go through this process is create a Pinterest board and start pinning all of your inspiration. Because when you go through the design center, you're looking at small samples of what it's ultimately going to be. So even though a tile may look great when it's this size, to imagine it on an entire wall can be another entirely different situation. So having a Pinterest board with inspiration photos can be really helpful to know the direction in which you're headed. And then you and the design team, and if you want your realtor along, then you are able to really get that help to really start honing in on what it is that you're looking for in terms of your overall vision for the home. So it was 3 full days. It was like 9 to 5 with a lunch break, going in, making all of these decisions, from flooring to where different placement of things would go to the cabinets. So much was taking place, and it is such a fun process. Like, yes, you are making 1,000,001 decisions, but it's also really fun. And I love getting to be a part of that process and just be able to lend, my realtor perspective, because there were times that my client would be asking, like, even though that this house is their dream house and they plan to be here for a really long time, we all know that sometimes life can throw us a curveball. So they would ask questions of just like, hey, what are things that you're seeing? What do you think would look good based off of all of the homes that you're walking into versus what we're looking at? Or, what would be great for resale value, things like that. So I'm always happy to lend my opinions when it comes to that. So we had a really great time. So then after selections, of course, because when it comes to selections, that's where the budget can easily get out of control a little bit, because you have different levels of selection. So generally, Turnberry is going to have certain levels within the different selections that are going to already be included in your pricing. But if you maybe don't prefer what's in that built in, then there's some upgrade options, and of course you want to take that into account. Generally speaking, with Turnberry, they say a lot of times they're seeing clients kind of give themselves an upgrade budget anywhere between $100,000 to about $150,000. And really, that's an area where, again, having your realtor with you can be really helpful, because sometimes the upgrades that Turnberry can offer are going to be worth it to go ahead and pay for that price. Other times, there's going to be opportunities where that's maybe not the best route to go. And, you can get, like I would be saying, like, hey, what you could do, this could be more cost effective to have it done, like go with the basic and then have it, there's sometimes where it's like the price can be just a little much for whatever it may be. And that's when it's normally a great time for me to just say, hey, based off of what we know, to get this project done, yes, if you want to pay for the convenience, you can absolutely go with Turnberry and get this done on the forefront. Or sometimes it's better to go with just the basic option and then, have it done after closing, and it can be more cost effective that way. So again, you go through the 3 days. After the 3 days, they take a look at just what the expense is for your upgrades that you made during the selection process. Then there is another deposit put down after that. And then after that, you're really off to the races. It's not going to be long after that before the build process on your home actually starts. And so generally speaking, with Turnberry right now, you're looking between a 6 to 7 month build. We were actually projecting to close around May or June of this year, but the way that Turnberry was moving just through the selection process and the way the build process was going, we actually ended up here with a late April closing, so it actually got moved up a little bit. So generally speaking, Turnberry, once they reach a certain point in the process, they will be able to provide you a close date, which 99.9% of the time, they're absolutely going to meet that. There can only be like very few exceptions, but once Turnberry sets that close date, they're going to meet that close date. And so after the build process, you normally do a pre-drywall walkthrough, make sure that outlets and electric is where it's supposed to be before drywall goes up. This is another opportunity to just make sure that things are going as they're supposed to go. And then as you get towards the end of the build, normally about a week or so before closing, you're going to be doing a homeowner orientation with the home. You're going to be going through making sure, first you're going to also be doing blue tape. So that means you take blue tape, you're going to mark up the house where there's little deficiencies, just because those things happen with a new build. So those are items that the builder will take care of before closing, so the home is in pristine condition when you sign the documents and take ownership of it. The new homeowner orientation is also them walking you through the different mechanics of how the house operates, so you know what to do. Generally speaking, some of it's self-explanatory, but it's always a really good thing to just be able to go through that, know where things are, know how things operate. And then you normally do a final walk the day of closing to make sure that everything has been signed off on, every project, every blue tape item has been addressed prior to closing, and then you're well on your way to the closing table. And then the other thing that I did want to mention really quick is, so because they're still living out of state prior to closing, as we were going through the process, yes, they came in for pre-drywall and of course the new homeowner orientation. But of course, that's where we do the boots on the ground work, where we're giving video and photo updates throughout the build process. So you're still a part of the process and getting to see it, because it's really exciting to watch a home come together. With the build process, it's a really fun experience. You know, Turnberry, kind of like I said earlier, they are custom. So even though they do have floor plans, like you can push a wall out, you have the opportunity to maybe redesign the layout of the kitchen. So, and of course, those kinds of upgrades do come with a cost attached to it, but they really want to make sure that they can customize the home to you. And so overall, my client was extremely happy with the product that they ended up with, and it's so neat. One of my favorite things about the new build process is when you walk with a client from the very beginning, you get to see, you get to see the bare lot and envision what's going to be on it. And then even though, when you're looking at, because really our timeline here was from August to April, and so you're looking at those several months, and a lot of times it can feel like it's a long time, but before you know it, closing day is here, and you've really seen the house and just the vision from the beginning, and then to actually see the final product, it's a really neat process. So if you are thinking about making a move, or if you're curious about new build opportunities or Turnberry in specific, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. All of my contact information is below. Again, my name is Caitlin Merton. I'll see you next time.